In this video, we'll learn how to scan medium format film at home with full borders. This method is faster than any Epson V-Series scanner. I'm including tips and tricks I've learned along the way so you can avoid making mistakes and get amazing scans sooner. Let's dive in. Equipment you'll need. Gloves. Copy stand. Don't be cheap here. Good copy stands are expensive for a reason. Because they don't move. Even with extra support, this stand has a ton of play. Save yourself a major headache and get a quality copy stand. A light source. This particular light is a Gen 2 Skier copy box. A camera with a macro lens. 2 pieces of anti-reflective museum glass. Residual oil remover or ROR fluid. This will help remove streaks and smudges from the glass. Thanks to Kyle McDougall for this tip.
Hope you enjoyed this.
Kim wipes to clean the glass. An anti-static brush. This will help keep dust off of the glass and off your negatives. A rocket blower. A mirror to level your camera. A wireless remote trigger. Finally, you'll need your negatives. Start by setting up your light source. A quick note about lighting. Backlight is critical for quality scans. The light needs to be bright, even, and as high CRI as possible. If your scans look like this, the light source isn't bright enough or it's uneven. Next, grab your 2 pieces of anti-reflective museum glass. To prep our glass for scanning, spray a Kim wipe with ROR. Carefully wipe the glass. You may see some smudging if this is the first time you've used ROR on the glass, so respray and wipe the glass until it's free of streaks and smudges. Next, grab your anti-static brush and wipe both sides of the glass. Follow up with a few blasts of air from the rocket blower. Repeat the cleaning steps for the other piece of glass. Some of you may be wondering, what about Newton rings?
The suspense is terrible. He's gonna go this time. I hope it'll last.
Don't you worry. What are Newton rings? Newton rings appear when there are tiny air gaps between 2 pieces of clear material. I've only noticed Newton rings with Kentmere and sometimes FOMA medium format film. If you do find Newton rings, you can easily remove them by adding a piece of A&R glass to your scanning workflow. Check out my how to scan 35mm film video for a breakdown on how to use A&R glass. We now need to talk about another issue, dust. Unfortunately, unless you have a clean room...
Hey! It's okay. It's supposed to happen. See? Clean room. Clean.
There will always be some dust on your negatives, but we can do a few things to minimize it. By dusting the negative before scanning and dusting the glass in between swapping negatives, the amount of present dust will be reduced. This will take some time initially, but it'll significantly reduce the amount of time you'll spend manually removing dust in post. Trust me on that one. Even if you're using infrared dust removal in post, these steps are still important. Now it's time to set up the camera. Attach it to the copy stand and turn it on. Turn it on. Grab your mirror and place it under the camera. We'll be using it to level the camera. Adjust the ISO and shutter speed so you can see the reflection of the lens on screen. I keep the aperture set to f8 so there's a reference point to line up the camera. Sometimes this is a little dark, so if you need extra light, you can use your phone or a flashlight. Enable your camera's on-screen guides and line up the cross in the middle of your screen with the center of the aperture blades. Congratulations, your camera is now level and almost ready to scan. Next, we need to talk about camera settings. Auto settings don't work well for scanning, so how do we know what to set the camera to? Fortunately, there's an easy way to figure this out. First, set the metering mode to center. This will tell the camera to only meter the information in the center of the sensor where the negative is and ignore the bright light around the edges of the frame. This will give us a more accurate meter reading. Aperture. Most lenses are sharpest around f8, so set the camera to f8. ISO. ISO is real easy. Set it as low as possible for the least amount of noise. This particular camera's lowest ISO is 100. Shutter speed. How do we know what shutter speed to use? If we look at the Negative Lab Pro scanning guide, Nate recommends shooting at a +1 exposure value. I prefer +2/3 or +0.07. Adjust your camera's shutter speed until the on-screen meter reads your desired exposure value. 2 quick side notes. Number 1. A bright light source makes it possible to use a faster shutter speed. Why would we want a fast shutter speed if the camera is mounted to a copy stand? If you're using a POS copy stand like this one, a fast shutter speed reduces vibrations, which will stop any motion blur and produce a sharper image. If you're using a quality copy stand, vibration isn't really much of an issue. Number 2, exposure settings. If you plan on batch converting your roll, keep the exposure settings the same for the entire roll. I find that some frames on the same roll tend to be over or underexposed, so for maximum editing flexibility, I adjust exposure settings between frames, and if needed, I color correct each frame independently rather than batch converting. Now we can frame our shot and set focus. If you want full film borders, adjust the frame to fit. Focusing. Focusing needs to be done manually for best results, but don't worry, it's real easy. If using a 400 speed or higher film, it's pretty easy to just focus on the film grain. If you're like me and prefer finer grain, focusing on the grain can be a little challenging, so to get around this, I turn on peaking and focus on the edge of the film. It's easier to see, and there's generally enough contrast for peaking to be visible. A quick note on focus. It only needs to be adjusted once per roll unless you bump the camera or the copy stand. After nailing focus, grab your wireless remote. I used a 5-second delay to ensure there's no vibrations when the camera takes a picture. Frame up the next shot and trigger the shutter with the remote. After you've scanned a segment, remove the negatives. I hit both pieces of glass with the anti-static brush and the blower. This helps keep the dust off of the glass and the negatives. Continue repeating this process until you finish the roll. Congratulations, you just learned how to scan medium format film at home with full borders. For more scanning tips, you can check out Negative Lab Pro's Best Practices page. It'll be linked in the description below. Remember to be patient through this process. It is a pain in the butt, but it'll be worth the awesome scans you'll get after. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.